You're listening... Wait, what? You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast.
Tonight's podcast, Suspiria.
Hello, welcome to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Its purpose is to dissect and discuss horror films, both old and new. And we have the chance to look at Dario Argento's Suspiria, namely because of the...
Suspiria.
Suspiria. The famous Phil Collins inspired track. Yeah, that's how it got its name.
That's it, it did, yeah. Suspiria. I was going to do this bit, as soon as you say it, I was going to go, Suspiria, exciting and new, come aboard, we're expecting... I have no idea why, but every time when you first told me about this film, I thought... Yeah. I heard Suspiria, and when I got the title around my head, I just started singing the thing, The Love Boat. Oh. I don't know why.
Just crazy you are.
Suspiria, exciting and new.
Yeah, so we are on that. We are going to talk about Dario Argento's Suspiria, which, and this is off the back, obviously, because the new film's literally just about to get released with Tilda Swinton and Dakota Fanning.
And this is a remake?
Remake, yeah, or re-envisioning. Maybe.
All right, okay, yep, sure.
But also, like the Argento movie was released in 1977, so it just celebrated 40 years.
So it's 41 now, yeah. And I'd never heard of it.
I kind of spoke about this one, really.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it until you told me.
Yeah. So I should probably introduce ourselves as we get going. So I'm your host for the podcast. My name's Sean Morte, and I'm joined by Anthony Big Cheese Yee. So, talk through that moment that you were just explaining about me telling you about the film.
Yeah, I seriously never heard of it. You're excited. You want to see it. They're showing a digitally mastered screening of it. And I'm like, what is it? And you're like, have you not heard of Suspiria? With the same sort of incredulity, that's not the word, but when I said I'd never seen The Godfather, or I'd never seen Halloween, and you're like, what the fuck? Same deal, but at least I'd actually heard of Halloween, and I'd heard of The Godfather, just hadn't gotten around to seeing them. Suspiria. I'd heard of Dario Argento because of his daughter, Asia, because she was a little, like late 2000s, she was getting kind of big in Hollywood, and then she kind of disappeared, and now we kind of know why, because of a certain... Harvey Weinstein put her off the whole system, but yeah, and then I knew that her father was a famous horror filmmaker, and now this is one of his works, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, you're excited to see it, let's go see it.
Yeah, from my point of view, this is one of the this has always been one of the pinnacle movies of the horror genre, but had such a huge impact on me when I first watched it.
Oh, okay, so you'd heard about this film, have you, or you came out of that way?
Yeah, no, I'd heard about it, but I like an Argento. Yeah, I was already quite into horror by that point, well and truly, and it was just one of those ones that was on the list. I was like, oh yeah, should probably watch that.
And beneath matched or overhyped the expectation.
I think it exceeded expectation.
Right.
So like, because I went into it going, I'm not familiar with Argento's work, so I wasn't really like, so up to that point as well, if we're just talking, from Argento's career point of view, he kind of made his name in Italian cinema for reinventing giallo, which is Italian kind of crime noir thriller movies with a vicious kind of bloody twist to them. And he was so that he kind of made his name in that, but he was kind of getting a bit tired of that genre and wanted to reinvent himself a little bit, and kind of went, well, I've always been enticed by horror, so
really? Okay.
In that realm. When I go and see a movie, I like to come out feeling something, and this movie attacks so many senses. You can't help but come out feeling something.
Right. Okay.
And I was really kind of inspired by it and invigorated, and was like, this is really interesting. I want to see more of this.
Because to me, it was a very... the one thing that impressed me about it, I'll give you my commentary as we go through the plot line what I feel about it. But the digitally remastered thing we saw in the cinema with the red walls was just startling. Like the cinematography was like, I mean, I still use anamorphic lenses now and stuff like that, but at the same time, it was, for an old film, it was like, oh, wow, this looks really rich and really cool.
Yeah.
And red, especially, because red is a big theme and visually in this film, is a hard colour, particularly on VHS, it bleeds badly and just looks shit very easily of all the colours. And so to see it crisp in the way it was intended, and probably better than the way it was intended, was just like, oh my god, this is really awesome. That's pretty much the only thing I have to say about this film, so the rest of it will be you talking. No.
Oh, good.
No, all good.
There's a few kind of interesting things going on with this. I think I remember hearing that this film bombed in Italy, and it just went gangbusters everywhere else.
Box office is £1.3 billion from Italy, which is 1.8 million North American in rentals. So it made money, but like when you say billion, it's impressive. But when you realise it equates to $1 million, not much.
Yeah.
But interesting. So we all both have the same Wikipedia page open.
We should get a result to Wiki.
Get on with it.
But let's get into the guts of the thing. Yeah, so it opens with the Love Boat theme tune.
It does, which I thought was very fresh.
Well, we get this kind of very. It feels like a European airport, doesn't it? The way
Yes.
And it's weirdly kind of stark. And we get to meet the lead straight off the bat, which is Susie, played by Jessica Harper.
Susie Banyan, who is... what happened was Frances O'Connor, the Australian actress, is actually Susie Banyan's clone, who was frozen for 20 years and then rebirthed later as an Australian citizen. Because, I swear to God, they are exactly the same.
Yeah.
They look so much alike. I'm not even talking about the guy who plays Chuck and Jim from The Office. They kind of look alike, but these two look... I mean, I'm sitting there going, how old is Frances O'Connor? The whole time, I really was. I'm looking, they are the same person. So that was that distracted me for quite a bit.
Well, I know I just some of the docos I've watched. Argento has a real distinct. He kind of knows what he's looking for in visually with actors, and he needs a certain look. And he was attracted to Frances O'Connor's her big eyes, right. Within this kind of very small kind of meek frame that went along with it, and that kind of was what drew him to her, because she was kind of not really known prior to this. And she does have this look about her, and he kind of describes her as like this almost, like the manga, anime kind of series stuff. That's
she is almost a manga character come to life. I could see it. Yeah.
And when he said that kind of made me go, ooh, manga as Suspiria as a manga anime series would be kind of interesting.
And then you thought, I'd like a mango right now. And then your mind just went on this weird tangent.
Yeah, that's right.
And you had a mango.
I did, and bought some fruit.
You did.
Yeah. Then I did the tango. I beat mango. Oh my god.
And then you're like, you know what? I want to buy a Tarago. And then and that was the end of a really weird night.
I know, it was. So he's obviously somebody with a Dario Argento, that is somebody with a huge vision in mind, and he knows exactly what he's after.
It's interesting how, dynamic-wise, how certain filmmakers who say that are tolerated, and I'm reading this interesting book called Sapiens, and it's all about imagined orders, and it's all about how, the thing that makes Homo sapiens unique compared to other animals, like beehives and bees or ants, know what they're doing in their society because it's programmed in their DNA. Mm-hmm. But we have to communicate. Like a good example is on a soccer team, a football team. Yeah. You know the rules. It's an imagined set of rules, but you know what they are. Your teammates know what they are, and the team that you're playing against know what they are. So you can play a game of football because the imagined set of rules. All it takes is one of you to go. If the opposition player scores a goal, and just go, I'm not accepting that. you break the imagination of the rules.
Yeah.
And that's what countries are, and religions are, and state borders. We believe there's a border between Canada and America because everybody agrees there's a border. There's no border. There's no line. But that's really interesting. And so it's like that thing of this insane director who just says this crap, and all it takes is one of you to go, "That's crap. That's insane." Even if you could make this rig, why are we going to this so much energy to satisfy your ego? But we do it. We do it because of these imaginary set of rules, and that's how our brain works, and we accept these imaginary realities. And that's how we can actually make a corporation believe in the corporation. So a corporation, the example uses Peugeot. The company Peugeot is an imagined thing.
Yeah.
And it shows in things like, back in the olden days, if you're a blacksmith and you made a cart and the cart broke down, you're liable as the blacksmith.
Yes.
But now we have companies that make cars, and if the car breaks down, the CEO of the company is not liable. The company is. It's really interesting, So in terms of the filmmaking dynamic, same thing. Like the director, you have to do everything the director does, and it's about his vision or her vision. But I just find that interesting, whenever it's like H.G. Wells. Who did Citizen Kane? Was that him?
Orson
Welles. Citizen Kane. Well, he never really made a film before, but he kept on doing things like, I want the camera to be super low, and they were like, we don't have a tripod that can get that low. No rig will set the camera low. And he pulls out a pickaxe and he smashes a hole in the floor. This is how you do. Things like that, it's like, it's funny, yeah. The more people behave and misbehave, the more you want to please them. But why? Why? It doesn't take one of you to go, you're a nutbag, and anyway. So I just went off on a tangent.
Yeah, it's good. And so, like, we as I said, we picked up with the lead, Susie Banyan, she's an American ballet student, and she kind of arrives. The whole place is set in Munich, and she arrives there because she's attempting to study at the Tanz Dance Academy, which is just kind of an elite ballet studio. And so she kind of comes out of the airport, and it's just pouring down with like torrential rain, and we get this kind of killer music kind of kicking in the background, which already kind of puts you out of sync a little bit. That little bass sound was something that was is taken from an instrument called a bouzouki, not to be confused with a bazooka, because that would be quite dangerous.
Or a babushka. I do recall the music now. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, cool. And to me, it's fascinating. It's like it's an awesome piece of music, and the guys behind it are an Italian kind of band called Goblin.
Good.
And they have worked with Argento previously on his film Fondo Rosso, which we in Western culture know as Deep Red. They're very kind of avant-garde in their approach. And for me, when you listen to that music, it juxtaposes against the trills of the other music.
Yeah.
So it has this disjointed feel right from the very beginning, and that coupled with the fact that you get Susie coming out into the elements with the rain and the wind up around her, and it's just this energy is already kind of bubbling over, and you kind of feel unsettled right from the get-go. She's trying to hail a taxi, and eventually she kind of gets in and arrives at the academy, and there's another girl kind of standing outside of it.
That's right.
Into the autocom, but you can't quite hear what she's saying. But again, playing on this whole disorientation thing, which is, I love it. I love the fact that you feel so unsettled straight away. And then this girl kind of... Patricia, yeah, she kind of runs off in a bit of a frenzy. And so Susie then goes to try and call, on the intercom to kind of say she's there. And, like, if you hear, like... in the background, they're just like, you can kind of just make out, it's almost like they're saying, what do you want? Go away. We don't want you. We don't, and you're like, what? Get to this place, and they're not
open for business, yeah.
But the Susie essentially kind of is left to go. I don't know where she goes. Does she go and just stay at?
She's left her own devices. It was kind of a weird thing. It was weird for me, because I'm a bit literal. I was like, well, didn't she call ahead? Did she not know about the time difference? This is a bit stupid. And, why don't you just use a mobile phone? So it's kind of weird, because we follow Patricia, don't we? We don't follow Susie for a while.
Yeah, we follow Patricia at this point,
So again, it's that thing of how do you structure the play? Because I can imagine a traditional 3-act Hollywood person script doctor would go, well, who am I supposed to be following here as the lead? Somebody's not constrained by traditional Western storytelling. Yeah. Would suddenly just go, we'll just follow Patricia for a while, and we do. She goes to her mate's place. To a friend's apartment.
Argento's renowned for his plot narrative.
Yeah, right.
More known for the spectacle side of things. And this is evident in this, if you kind of were to break down the script, which we kind of are doing, it does jump all over the place.
Well, you'd imagine, for example, that would be, if you'd done it in the traditional Hollywood way, you would just follow Patricia. She dies. Let's spoil alert, she does die that night. She gets kicked, she runs away. Something's horrified her about the place. She's a student, she runs away, she goes to her friend's apartment. And then she doesn't make it out alive that night. And then we cut to Susie coming to the airport because, hey, there's a spot open and she's been given the spot in this prestigious school, isn't she lucky? Yeah. And she gets Patricia's old room. That's how you would do it in a conventional way. Sorry.
So let's talk about Patricia because it is kind of an interesting moment this as well because you're right, she goes to her friend's apartment. She seems a bit unnerved by something that we don't know. Part of the other thing too that kind of lends to this unnerving feeling is the dubbing that's used. They did that, but the interesting thing about it is that there's a mixture of the actors in it are a mixture of bilingual kind of, or they speak just their own language and stuff. So there's a lot of them are either American, Italian, or German, but they spoke the lines of the script in their own language. So in the scenes where they're in the dressing room, for example, you have a German person talking to an American.
That's right.
Italian who tends to talk to a French person and then talks to another American. So when they were filming it, they would have had a very disjointed thing about it. They just knew they had to perform their line. So I don't know whether that kind of is something else that comes across a little bit. But yeah, my point was that there's clearly dubbing going on when Patricia's talking to her friend at that point.
The Italian movies were famous for that. I mean, you got the Clint Eastwood films.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's clearly speaking English, but it was all dubbed over. And then there's the Trinity brothers. Remember the Trinity boys? The big guy, the skinny guy, and they'd always fight. Yeah, same thing. So that same sort of dubbed over feel that as a kid you just didn't question it. You didn't know what it was. That just sounded interesting. Yeah. So and then martial arts films does it all the time. The Jackie Chan films in the early '80s, whenever they had Western actors in there. Some would speak Chinese, but others would just speak English, and then the Chinese actors would all understand them and reply back in Chinese. So it is an interesting dynamic. It's
an odd concept, isn't it, when you think of it that way? Obviously from we're seeing the final product, where it's kind of dubbed, everything's just dubbed over. But the idea of going in and talking in one language and having someone talk back to a completely different language, break that together is just a bit strange. Anyway, now that's my turn to digress. So anyway, my point, going back, was that Patricia's talking to her friend at the apartment. She seems spooked by an unseen assailant outside on the rooftop from the window. And she kind of keeps getting a bit closer and closer to this window, and then she sees these yellow eyes staring back at her. Before she kind of backs away, but then ventures forward again, and then this huge hand comes crashing through the window and starts squashing her face against the window.
Because she goes to the bathroom or something, doesn't she? Or
yeah. She's in, and the other girl's trying to get in, and then weirdly, the girl ends up on the roof, and she's trying to get away from this again, the unseen assailant who's then starts stabbing her with this knife.
Yes, and it's clearly a mannequin in the close-up. And there's blood, but at the same time, it was kind of disturbing. I don't know why I found it a bit.
It was because it's you see it kind of penetrating.
And
it's a bit brutal in the way.
It is the way he cuts into it, and it's also the classic power of film. The way montage can make you join the gaps, and even though it doesn't take much to step back and make you go, "That's a mannequin he's stabbing," but if the music is done well and the way it's shot well, you still get caught up in it. And you're like, "Oh, yeah."
But like, it's the point where her heart is open.
That's what it is. He's hacking into her heart and getting to her heart, and that straight away makes you go, ugh.
Yeah. And then he starts ripping off the cord off the wall and kind of wraps it around her neck. And by this point, the friend has come down into the foyer underneath. And, like, the building has got this amazing kind of, like, art deco kind of thing going on. And this huge kind of glass skylight, which, you know, with all these merged colours coming in together. And then this is where we get, he kind of throws her body onto this skylight, essentially. Mm-hmm. And her head smacks through the window, and it just kind of hangs there for a bit. And it looks really, odd. Disturbing. Until eventually the whole skylight gives way and her body comes smashing down, and then she gets killed by being hung. Mm.
Well, probably the stabbing through the heart probably
stabbing through the heart. Yeah. Well, but the way they shoot it is almost like that was the death blow at the end. Then you get this kind of a reveal that her friend didn't make it either, because all the shards of glass had come down and impaled her.
That's right. It's one of those things that you're like, oh, come on. But at the same time, anything dropping from a great height can really do you a bit of damage. It's a bit like everybody yells at Charlize Theron wrenching around away from the falling ship. Yeah. And didn't move sideways.
And I think I forgot to say that actually when Susie's in the taxi leaving the place, she actually sees Patricia running through the woods or the forest.
She does, yeah. Is that when she gets the taxi back?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, when she's coming back to town, that's when she crosses Patricia's path again.
Yeah.
So she's dead.
She's dead. She's dead, man. And so cut to Susie, who's now got a placement at the... we meet Miss Tanner, and we also meet the headmistress called Madame Blanc.
Matt LeBlanc's mum.
Yeah, who was played by Joan Bennett, who
last role.
And then we also meet Olga, who's
her roommate,
and another girl called Sarah. But the weird stuff starts happening to Susie, because she starts actually almost straight away starts feeling sick, doesn't she?
First classes, she starts feeling ill, so she's a bit soft.
Yeah, she's a bit soft, isn't she?
Yeah.
So she's asked to do this dance number, and she does this kind of clap to the floor,
which the instructor didn't want.
I may have missed a bit too. I think I did, because in the lead up to this. Doesn't she kind of walk around the corridors a bit? All the floors are even like everything's brightly red.
This is red. Yeah, it's like red wallpaper that looks almost like velvet, and it's just stunning. It's really
one of the techniques that they're doing is that they shot stuff using coloured gels.
Yeah.
To kind of so you get this kind of all this red lighting and stuff that's going on.
Which is very student film for me.
To me, it's very Bonnie Tyler, Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Yeah. Which you want to talk about weird video clips, kids.
Yeah. So she's walking along, but there is a really cool bit I really like where she sees this woman sitting down and she's rubbing this kind of goldish bronze kind of statuette thing, and there's this kid who looks like he's from the Village of the Damned standing behind her, looking really shocked, and then all of a sudden this bright light kind of shines off the statue into Susie's face, and she kind of immediately reacts to it, and it's done at the same time as the bouzouki strikes as well, and it's just this great synergy of sound and vision happening all in one go. You can tell I love this film.
You do, because I don't remember that at all.
Oh, it's a great shot. But from that point on, it's almost that point was where she falls under like the hypnosis, if you were, and that's where she starts to start feeling sick. And then she does do the collapse in the studio in the hall. Sweet. So I just responding to Ben. Well, I will do later.
I'm going to send him a message. So back to the story then.
So she's starting to feel sick, and then we get this kind of the school physician turns up. He takes a look at her. He tells her just to drink a
glass of wine, which Ace feels very Italian, but at the same time we get told that it's fine. Like these days people say a glass of wine is actually okay.
So and interestingly, like I'm sorry, just and there was a reason for me to kind of go off on one, because there's in the new film there is a doctor in it called Dr. Joseph Klemperer, who is actually played by Tilda Swinton.
Yes, I've just read this now online. That she plays an old man because she loves gender bending, the old Tilda. And the makeup looks great.
The reason I bring that back in is because I'm wondering if that's the same character that would. So anyway, so he tells her to drink lots of wine, and so
they're feeding, and what they feed her for dinner is like fish or some shit.
Yeah.
It looks kind of off.
And this is where we also find out that she's got joining rooms to Sarah.
So yeah, because Olga kicked her out because they were flatmates, and now she's joining rooms to Sarah, and she becomes mates with Sarah.
Yeah, and then we get the bit where we get the lava.
Yes, lava falling from the ceiling dinner scene.
They actually shot that with real lava, and Dario called Jessica Harper over and just said, I'll come look at this, and he's showing her these little things.
Yes, so just at home, for those of our accents, it's not lava, it's lava, like it's little worms.
Lava.
Lava, yeah, lava.
Yeah, he just was showing her, goes, look at this stuff, and then that's when following scene is where they kind of tip it all over them, and it goes nuts. And she said there's a scene where she's combing her hair and there's lava in her hair, but she said in that scene it was just rice. So, and they go up to investigate. There's a young man who's also part of the academy. He's like one of the token.
You don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
And you never do.
Yeah.
He goes up into the the attic with Madame Blanc, and that's when they find all this kind of a place kind of like teeming with it essentially. And Madame Blanc just kind of shrugged it off with, it's what happens, It was.
So my mind was kind of racing at this point because I'm thinking, okay, so are they a cult? Are they a bunch of witches?
Yeah.
And did this happen? And this is some sort of part of, I don't know, spell or something to indoctrinate the newcomers. Or did some random shit just happen and the woman goes, it just happens. This day and age, that place would be shut down like crazy because that's a health rating of 1 star out of 5.
I know that sucks. I don't know where I'm going to go with that. Sorry.
So that's right. Well, they then though they sleep in the dance hall, don't they? They all get
that's right. They won't have to sleep in the dance floor, and
there's rotten food up there. That's right.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yes, that's
rotten food.
Yeah.
So all I was going to say to that though was a precursor to the next scene and talking about witchcraft. So the genesis of the idea for Suspiria, Argento wanted to make a film about witchcraft and witches, but he didn't want it to be country witches. He wanted it to be witches in the city.
Not suburban witches, not rural witches, metropolitan witches.
Because you'd never see that, and he was like, well, they'd exist.
Yeah, Wiccans.
So explore that.
Oh, Wiccans.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why he went down that road, and he went touring around Europe as well, kind of getting witch stories off, and reciting stuff to kind of infuse that a little bit. So interesting. So we do cut to, as you said, they're on the dance floor, and all these kind of makeshift beds set up, and there's like a curtain, which almost acts like as a backdrop with shadow puppets and stuff going on in the background.
Yeah.
One of the teachers who's asleep behind the curtain, and it obscures her identity. They start talking because her breathing's quite hoarse-like.
Yes.
And it's kind of a strange. And
it's almost like it's spooky.
Yeah, so Sarah and Susie start having a chat about it, and and they kind of say that they think she's the Academy's director, so somebody we haven't seen.
We haven't seen yet, yeah.
So you kind of like this eerie stuff going on, and something I will add to this too as well is like some of the if you listen to the dialogue, particularly with the girls, it's very childlike in the way they talk to each other.
Okay.
Even if you cast back to the when we first start getting introduced to them, and there's that bit where I don't know the character's name, but she's like she says they're all snakes in this school.
Mm-hmm.
Does that whole, and then the other girl goes back.
That's right.
Like this really childish kind of behaviour, and it's because when Argento first pitched the story, he wanted the girls to actually be around 11 or 12 years old.
Ah.
And the producer said, "No, I don't think we want to do that."
Cancel that, yeah.
Yeah. So he had to kind of make them older, so like older teens essentially.
And when the producer said, "Did you update the dialogue so it reflects more older teens?" He's like, "Oh,
no,
yeah, sure."
Because he still wanted, he got around it by sticking to that because that's what he wanted. He was like, I still want this childlike innocence coming across in the way they talk to each other. And even he got the door handles higher up so they're head high, so they up to open the doors.
Okay.
To kind of give this look of how a child would have to open a door to go through it. So he had all this kind of idea of how to set out the shots and stuff with making them feel like infantile as they went around this vast, these vast spaces.
You can't make this sort of film today, then. I don't think in today's climate, like making women objectifying them as young girls.
No.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, that's just an observation.
So yeah, so we get to they had that conversation in the hall. Then we get the scene, like we get this kind of bit of narrative following around the school's pianist, who's this blind man called Daniel, and he has a dog, a German Shepherd.
I remember that because he leaves this dog outside school, which is extremely hot. Like it's a really bright day. He leaves it outside this building, and he picks him up 8-9 hours later. I'm thinking, did you not leave a bowl of water for the poor thing? Because it's clearly a hot day. Different time frames.
Basically, like they accused his dog of attacking the nephew Albert, the Village of the Damned kid, and so Miss Tanner kind of basically fires him on the spot, and he's just like going, good riddance, fresh air and all this stuff. He goes on, and we kind of see him a bit later on, and he's in a pub. Apparently that pub, right, was where it was a famous pub in Munich, which is where Adolf Hitler, before he kind of rose politically, but it was where he kind of first came across some speeches that were made. He was following this right-wing group. And there was a police raid on that place. Yeah,
this is the period of time where he was supposed to spy on them, and he ended up joining. He was spying on a fascist underground network, and he ended up getting into their ideology and joining them in the end. And he ended up becoming their leader, effectively.
Which comes to my next bit, because the reason the pub was chosen was deliberate because of the Hitler kind of association. Because the next scene is where we see Daniel walking out into this huge square, essentially, in Munich. It's a famous square in Munich because it was actually used for a lot of the Nazi speakers. So those shots we have of Hitler up on the podium in front of all those German soldiers were shot in this square.
Oh, right, yeah.
So it has this real evil energy about it anyway.
Yeah.
And he did that deliberately, and he had to shoot it in a certain way because because there's like 3 temples that surround it, and the way the light kind of hit on the temples would always change, so he always had to kind of keep changing the shots. And on that note too, apparently Argento said that he went into this film wanting to ensure that there was no one shot that was the same.
Right, okay.
He said there was only one point where he had to kind of cheat a bit and it is similar, or it's the same kind of shot. He said, but he went in there with no shot is identical because he wanted that kind of feel the whole way through the film. So we follow Daniel, the blind pianist, with his dog, and they come into this square, and there's like lots of noise again going on. There's shadows bouncing off the walls and stuff.
It's at night, isn't it? Yeah.
It's at night time, yeah. He's unsensed. The dog is unsensed, and he's kind of looking around and kind of it's a great misdirect. This scene, because you kind of feel like something's going to attack them, and then all of a sudden it's the dog that turns and attacks Daniel, and he rips his throat out.
Yes.
And then you get these random Italian cops standing in the corner, and they go chasing after the dog. Quite a visceral kind of shot, that bit. And then we cut to Susie, who starts to then, at this point, she starts to remember some stuff Patricia had said.
Etc., yeah.
She remembered the word secret iris, as the girl fled the school. And then she says about how, she's telling this to Susie, and Susie's saying, how Patricia was acting a bit strange and paranoid at the time. So,
and then Susie fades out or something?
She kind of like, Susie starts getting a bit kind of, she's drugged at this point.
Yeah, because it's the weird food, the weird wine and
Yeah.
really unappetizing fish.
Sarah's kind of like forced to flee the room because it feels like somebody's about to come into the room.
Yeah, okay. Let's get odd now. Yeah.
And she ends up in the attic, where she locks herself in the storage room. And they had this great shot again where because her head's pressed up against the wall, and then we can see this kind of like butter knife sliding through the crack in the door as it tries to then undo the hatch. And then she starts to kind of like, try and escape the room. And she ends up in the storage room, and she starts piling up these luggage, like old suitcases. It's not, I don't think it's going to be funny, but to me it was a funny
People
shot.
laugh, yeah. People always laugh at it, yeah.
She's trying to climb up on this thing, and you go, you're not going to be able to stand on that thing.
Because it's really high, really stupidly high, yeah.
But she manages to climb up on it because there is a window that she's trying to get through. She can see that there's somebody about to try and come into the room. So she kind of climbs through the window and then throws herself because there's a door opposite. And then she ends up landing in this huge pit of razor wire.
Nice, that's right.
And the lady that, I should probably look her up. So the lady that played Sarah is Stefania Cassini. So she was saying how she was never told what her death scene was.
Yeah.
She just turned up and she saw this pit, and with the wires and stuff. And Dario's just like, yeah, just throw yourself in, roll yourself around, and be okay. And so, and she did it, and it was all done in one take, that bit. And she just got so twisted in the wires. When she got back home that night, she just had like these little nicks, like it's almost like loads of these little mosquito bite.
Wow.
Because she got so pinched with the skin.
Different time, folks.
So, yeah, she dies.
Now, somebody that this black gloved hand comes in and cuts the throat anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Which is a bit overkill. But yeah.
We don't, again, never see who it is.
It is, yes, the mysterious murderer.
And then we get the next day where Susie wakes up and she finds out that Sarah has supposedly run away.
She's scarping.
Yeah, so Sarah then goes to see a close friend of hers called Frank Mandel.
A psychiatrist. Yeah, here we go. Yeah.
He's like this Italian guy. He's known for playing like Nazis essentially. He was in Blade.
Was he?
Yeah, he played Dragonetti in the first Blade film.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes. Okay, that guy. Yeah.
So yeah, he's and this is great. This is if there's one scene that jars with me, it's the scene where he and Susie are talking outside this office building. Worst wind blowing around, covered with her hair, and I'm just like, could they not have?
Yeah, another day or shoot inside because it's not working. Yeah.
I know. It was just like I just found it really off-putting. And Jessica tries her best to kind of keep sweeping her hair out of her face.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
But too strong. Anyway, but this is like the scene. The purpose of the scene is because this is where he's talking about the backstory of the building. You always get this, and like you get it in Rosemary's Baby and stuff, where there's always an expert in the field who then tells you a story of.
You got to go to an expert. You got to find out because there's always going to be a point where you have to ask what's going on, and you need to ask someone. Right. Yeah.
And he talks about how the school was established by this Greek woman named Helena Marcos. She was believed to be a witch. And had perished in a fire that had destroyed most of the school. And but he kind of says that he believes that there's a coven that exists within the school, but the coven is only there because of its leader. And if you kill the leader, the true witch, kill the source of the power, and the witch is with it.
It's like that some vampire films. You kill the head vampire, everybody gets cured.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So then Susie returns to the school and she finds...
Everybody's buggered off.
Everyone's fucked off at night.
Yeah, fucked off ages ago. Fucked off ages ago.
Voice of an angel.
Yeah. They fucked off to the boy show ballet.
Yeah, so they've all gone off. So she then gets rid of the food and wine.
Doesn't have it.
And because she starts thinking that she's drugged. And then she kind of hears footsteps from Madame Blanc's office. And that's where she discovers the mural of the irises painted on the wall. And that's when it's like, oh, hold on, secret irises. And then she discovers by turning one of the irises, it leads to a secret door opening to the part of school. She goes inside and sees that there's this hidden passage, and she can hear Madame Blanc and some of the school staff plotting her demise.
And it's not just getting her fired or failing her. They want her. They want her dead.
She's cottoning on to what we're doing. She knows we're fucking wicked.
She knows too much. And then one of them was like, can we just fail her? Do we have to kill everybody? And they're like, you say this every time, Madge.
People are going to get suspicious.
And then Madge is like, well, I'm just running the numbers, and I'm not fucking stupid, okay? People keep dying or disappearing in this school. And then they're like, okay, there's a time and a place for this sort of talk, and this meeting isn't it. And then it just goes off this really odd tangent, and, you know, I was thinking, well, it's getting grounded in realism now, but...
Yeah, it does, it does. It's very odd.
It is odd.
It's only the point where they started eating mangoes and doing tango.
Mangoes do the tango.
But then, like, so Albert, Villager's damn kid, sees Susie, and he tells this one of the servants that he can see her out there. So the servant goes looking for her, and at which point then Susie kind of backs into this darkened room, and there's a open coffin with Sarah's body in it, which it looked like there was all this stuff coming out of her face, like glass and stuff.
Yeah, that was weird.
It was a weird look. I don't know if she pulled it off. What are you wearing today? I'm wearing shards of glass.
That's in my eye. Took forever to do, I tell you. Yeah.
So then she goes and Susie then goes to hide in another room, and that's when she discovers that there's someone like
sleeping. Yeah. Four post to bed, sleeping under the covers.
And she kind of goes, "Oh, I wonder if that's Helena Marcos."
And she says, "Excuse me, are you Helena Marcos?" And then she goes, "No." She goes, "Oh, it's not my bad." Walks, leaves.
Oh,
sorry.
What? She wakes this witch up, who then starts to kind of resurrects Sarah's body.
That's right.
Come and murder Susie. But then there's a point where this is one of those iconic shots again that you see it if you look up any still shots of Suspiria. There's a shot of Susie coiling against white drapes in the background, and she's looking incredibly fearful, and she's holding this dagger in her hand. And this is the shot right here, because she's recoiling from Susie. She's recoiling from Sarah coming towards her. But then she kind of realises that she might be able to kill this thing, because the witch appears invisible to her, but there's this weird outline thing that's of her silhouette that keeps appearing. So she kind of does this vague kind of swipe, and it just so happens to go through the witch's neck, and that's when Sarah's body just disappears, and then the school starts to kind of crumble and break apart, and Susie then at this point tries to flee the building, and she kind of sees Madame Blanc and some of the other teachers kind of coiling on the floor. There's like, I'm pretty sure one of them's got like blood coming out their head and stuff. As they start to kind of perish because the head witch is gone, and so Susie then kind of manages to escape into the night as the academy behind her starts kind of being engulfed with flames. And there's a moment of sigh and a smile on her face, like a release book, as then the credits start to roll. End of film.
Suspiria, exciting and new. Come aboard.
Yeah.
So that was that film. Very 70s. It was very much a film of the time, I felt.
Yeah. So, like, one of our old podcasters was chatting to me online just before we went to record. Ben Skinner. So people may, if you're on internet circuit, may know him from Movie Nerds Guys at the moment. So he was just chatting to me online, and he was just saying how he'd just seen it for the first time, much like Halloween. First time with him too.
Has he finally got around to seeing that? Because
I don't know if he finally got around to it.
Dude. Well, you probably should.
So yeah, he just watched the original just online, which was kind of a bit uncanny.
What do you think of it?
He just said, like, gloriously well shot. Like, he said it looked beautiful, and he said a really strong film. But he did say he could see why somebody would pick it up and want to try and make it for modern times.
Oh yeah, completely.
And I get that too, but this is a weird thing too, because I always thought it was one of those movies that's a bit sacrilegious to do that.
Like trying to remake Star Wars or some shit.
Yeah. But do you know what? From what I'm seeing of the trailer of the new one so far, I'm kind of like, oh, hold on, are we actually going to get a decent remake happening?
Ooh.
It looks kind of interesting.
Who's making it?
Very, very different tone in look and feel. And I knew what you just asked me, and I don't know the answer.
Because it's obviously been made by somebody who's like the Thing prequel was made by people who clearly loved the original film, and they didn't do a great film. They didn't do a bad film.
No,
and I don't know how much of that was studio interference and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see what they do with this.
Yeah, it would be. The director is, I'm going to try and pronounce his name, is Luca Guadagnino. A Sicilian film director, so he's from Italy. And he got the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay for Call Me by My Name or something like that. Was that what it was called? I'm going off the top of my head, but it was in the Oscars last year.
Cool.
So yeah, so sounds like he's quite. The look and feel has this very 70s feel to it, which seems to be having a bit of a renaissance anyway. Although people seem to be kind of Hereditary is an example of that. You can kind of see a lot.
Yeah. That's that more drawn out pace and head trip and you've got to figure out what's going on. Yeah.
Allowing it to breathe a little bit.
Yes.
I'm just going to play you a track as well while we're talking.
Sure.
This is the new track from the film, which is sung by Tom York.
This is a waltz thinking about our bodies, what they mean for our salvation.
I think that's probably us for this podcast, wouldn't you say, bro?
Yep.
Not much about on that one. Cool. So on that note, I hope you've enjoyed listening to our tangents on tangos and mangoes and everything in between,
Suspiria.
and Love Boat theme songs. Until next time, I'm your host as always for the Surgeons of Horror podcast, Saul Murte, and on this podcast I was joined by the delightful Anthony Big Cheesy.
Hello, bye.